By year's end, the Green Bay Packers had one of the best offensive lines in the league. Why they still need to invest in that position this offseason.
You are Locked On Packers, your daily Green Bay Packers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Packers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Peter Bukowski, and I cover the Packers for The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast to iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find podcasts, you will find Locked On Packers, the #1 Packers podcast on the internet. And this show for fans who know what happened. They want to know why and how. Thanks to everyone who makes Locked On Packers their first listen every day. We hope you like starting your day with us as much as we like starting our day with you. And today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first ticket purchase. Last minute tickets at the lowest price guaranteed. That's Game Time. I threw out a mock draft last night, and we're going to do a live mock draft on the show. But I picked Graham Barton, the tackle from Duke, who could play center in the league, could play guard in the league. And the response that I got has been the same that I've seen the responses over the course of the last few months. Why would the Packers feel like they have to go offensive line? Rasheed Walker's really good, or became really good, and certainly has more potential to get even better. Zach Tom, one of the best right tackles in the league already. Elton Jenkins, a Pro Bowl caliber player. And if you look at the season-long metrics, it says that this offensive line was really good. That's true. But remember when we went through the needs on that needs episode, everydayers will, of course, remember. The two lowest graded players on this offense were Jon Runyan Jr. and Josh Myers. Center is a problem. Josh Myers is going into the last year of his contract. And you're looking at a situation where you're like, okay, is he going to get better? And how much better? And can you upgrade? That's the most important question. Can you upgrade? The answer is probably. He's a below average center right now. Doesn't mean he can't get better, but that's what he is right now. Now, Jon Runyan Jr., we got a little clarity on that. Remember the interview we did with him at Super Bowl, he was playing hurt. And one of the reasons why he played pretty well at the end of the season was he was playing fewer snaps, and so he was fresh. That's what he told us. And he was dealing with an injury, and that was part of the reason why he was splitting time with Sean Ryan. And if that was a bigger reason than we realized that they were splitting time, like we assumed, and you know what happens when you assume, that this was performance-based with Jon Runyan, that they liked what Sean Ryan was giving them, and certainly Sean Ryan, a much better run blocker than Jon Runyan Jr. But Jon Runyan Jr. is a really solid pass protector. So maybe it's the case that timeshare was less about how they felt about Ryan and Jon Runyan comparatively, and more about trying to just ease the burden on JRJ, which would explain the, hey, actually, we kind of want him back now reports that are out there. But if you go beyond this, go beyond just the okay, the two worst players on your offense were this interior offensive lineman, one of whom is a free agent currently and one of whom is a free agent in a year. That leaves a pretty big void, and the Packers have a long history of getting out in front of these exact situations. Hey, you got Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams coming up for deals. Draft A.J. Dillon and do it early. Yeah, as a rookie, he's not going to play very much, but in year 2, he's going to play a bunch. By year 3, he's going to be a featured part of the offense. This is how good teams handle this, especially when you don't think you're going to give someone a contract. Now, if they extend JRJ, maybe he competes at center, maybe he competes at guard, but either way, here's the problem. Look at the depth chart. They do not have other guys. They have Royce Newman. Do you want Royce Newman playing meaningful snaps for you ever outside of August? The answer is no. He is a borderline NFL player. That's your swing interior offensive lineman. And with Josh Nijman set to hit the market, also potentially your swing tackle. They do not have anyone behind these guys who have played any meaningful snaps. I like Caleb Jones as a developmental player. I do. But in a playoff game, when you got to have it, when you need to have it, do you trust him to be out there? I mean, that is asking an awful lot. Luke Tenuta, they like Luke Tenuta, but he hasn't played. And what happens if they have to play? Well, you might be in big trouble. And so getting a versatile offensive line piece, someone like Graham Barton, who can play guard or tackle or maybe even compete to play at center, is terrific. If you see a tackle that you really like, draft them. It's so valuable to have good players at those positions, to have depth at those positions, because offensive line, these guys are warriors. They're not going to play 17 games for 5, 8, 10 years. They're just not going to do it. No one does it. So if you have a chance to draft Tyler Guyton at tackle, let him go compete with Rasheed Walker. And maybe right away he doesn't take that job, but maybe in a year he does. And then you've got a really good swing tackle who's got a ton of starting experience in Rasheed Walker. That's super valuable. And maybe he doesn't develop, and all Tyler Guyton is a swing tackle, but you, and not to put too fine a point on it, you took a swing. Tyler Guyton has, this is tackle from Oklahoma in the draft. He has the potential to be a really good offensive lineman, a Pro Bowl caliber left tackle. Special movement skills at that size. And the same thing at 25, and we've talked about this a little before, Jordan Morgan at 25, Graham Barton at 25. Let them play tackle. Let them see what they can do at tackle. But cross-train them. Let them see what they compete with Sean Ryan at guard if you're not going to bring back JRJ. And even if you are, let them compete. Now, if you're going to bring back John Runyon, I'm kind of all set there. And then Jordan Morgan, see if you can be a really good right tackle. If he can be a really good right tackle, then you can move Zach Tom to center. You can move Zach Tom to left tackle. It just gives you options. It gives you flexibility. And that is, with an offensive line, one of the reasons why the Packers are an offensive line factory, we talked about this with Marshall Newhouse, is because they're just constantly cycling in new players. They're going, look, we don't need offensive linemen, but we're going to take a bunch anyway. And a couple years ago, they did it, and they hit on 2 starting caliber tackles, one of the best tackle duos in the league right now. That's serious. But there's no depth, and you have this interior offensive line question, which means you have plenty of opportunities to go out and get somebody. And plenty of opportunities to have someone come in and compete for you to improve there. Just because you have a good offensive line doesn't mean there isn't room for improvement. And so I think the Packers are going to invest in offensive line at some point, whether it's early, whether it's late. That will be based on who is available at the time and who they can get in free agency. Based on some conversations that I've been having, Green Bay, they have their eyes on some big name players. Some of the guys that have been released, there have already been conversations. Names that you know, names that you recognize, names that you would want in Green Bay. We're going to do a mock draft live. Well, live for me, not for you. We're going to talk through the options, what we're looking at here. And I think it'll be the first one of these that we do. We will do these a lot. I really like to do them because I think it helps me work through the options. I love gaming out the scenarios. Teams, if they don't go through these sorts of exercises, ought to, because it's good to know, hey, if we take these guys here, what does the draft look like in the second round? What does the draft look like in the third round? What are their options likely going to be then? Gaming out all those opportunities and options. If you're not doing that, you're missing out on information, on strategy. So we're going to do that coming up in just a second on Locked On Packers. Did you know that even if you have a 401k for retirement, you can still have an IRA? Robinhood has the only IRA that gives you a 3% boost on every dollar you contribute when you subscribe to Robinhood Gold. But get this, now through April 30th, Robinhood is even boosting every single dollar you transfer in from other retirement accounts with a 3% match. That's right, a no cap match on 3%. Robinhood Gold gets you the most for your retirement thanks to their IRA with a 3% match. This offer is good through April 30th. Get started at robinhood.com/boost. Subscription fees apply. And now for some legal info. This claim is as of Q1 2024, validated by Radius Global Market Research. Investing involves risk, including loss. Limitations apply to IRAs and 401ks. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold for 1 year from the date of the first 3% match, and you must keep Robinhood IRA for 5 years. The 3% matching on transfers is subject to specific terms and conditions. Robinhood IRA available to U.S. customers in good standing. Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC, is a registered broker-dealer. And thanks to everyone who makes Locked On Packers their first listen every day. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. And now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today available now on the free Fire TV channels app. All right. Let's start the draft. For at least this exercise, for the moment, we are going to do no trades. And we are going to try as best we can use a list of players that we think the Packers would actually want to draft. So people that have not disqualified themselves, those kinds of things. So sitting here at 25, some potential options for the Packers that I think the Packers would actually have interest in drafting. Graham Barton, the tackle from Duke, who would probably play guard, probably play center, but could play tackle. Brian Thomas Jr., the receiver from LSU. Tyler Guyton, who I mentioned, the Oklahoma tackle. Further down the list, Adonai Mitchell, the receiver from Texas. Kool-Aid McKinstry, the cornerback from Alabama. TJ Tampa, the corner from Iowa State. Jordan Morgan, the tackle from Arizona. Chop Robinson, edge for Penn State. Kamari Lassiter, cornerback, Georgia. Some other names as well that I don't think the Packers would be as interested in. So Brian Thomas is one of those guys, to me, that you just can't have enough speed on your offense. And given the situation with Christian Watson and not knowing what that looks like, I think you can make the case for Brian Thomas here. I think if you had Jared Verse available, that would have intrigued me a little bit. I don't know that you're going to go edge 2 drafts in a row. You go back to 2019, that's like 3 and 5 years or whatever it is. I have a hard time with that one. Now, for the sake of argument, I did Graham Barton the last time. Do we want to do something different here? I really like the corners on day 2 at 41. I'm looking at this list, and there are some offensive linemen that I think could still be there and I would feel good about at 41. There's some corners that could be there that I still feel good about at 41. I don't know about this offensive line group. I think it gets thin faster than receiver or corner. And so just to do, I think if it were me trying to predict, I'm going to take Graham Barton. But because I think there's a chance for me in the 3rd round to potentially get a center, I'm going to flip this a little bit. Tyler Guyton would be the biggest offensive lineman they've taken since Marshall Newhouse. But the movement skills, I mean, Field Yates thinks this is a top 15 kind of guy. He could play left tackle. He could play right tackle. And yes, he would take some time, but that's okay. The Packers don't need him to step in right away. But you're talking about someone that has the ability to come in and be like an all-pro caliber left tackle. This is the move I'm going to make right here. All right, now sitting here at 41, interestingly, Graham Barton's still on the board. I find that hard to believe that it would play out that way in real life, but the previous 3 picks, Jordan Morgan, Zach Frazier, and J.C. Latham, those are the guys that went right before the Packers had their pick. And so, like, this is what I'm saying. If you feel like you can get that player at 41, then you can go a different spot at 25. You have to always be thinking ahead about how could this play out. Now, yes, you want to take a player that you have rated highly on your board. Hopefully, the highest rated player. But if you have a tie between a couple, that gives you the chance to break that tie. There are, I think, 2 players here that I'm really interested in. Kool-Aid McKinstry, who I think is a good value here at 41, and Chop Robinson at 44. Chop is a different kind of player, a different kind of pass rusher than the Packers have. And this spot, to me, is a place to get a little frisky, a little freaky. I love at 58, if I can get Kyrie Jackson, the corner from Oregon, or I can get Xavier Legette, the receiver from South Carolina, let's really have some fun. Some linebackers maybe in that range, depending on what the Packers do in free agency. Javon Bullard, the safety from Georgia, maybe at 58. There's some DBs that I would feel good about at 58. There are not pass rushers later in the draft that I really like. I like Marshawn Nealand is someone who at 58 could be there for me. He's someone we've also taken in a mock draft. This is not a mock draft Monday. But I think the corner class is a little deeper right now. And so I'm going to take Chop Robinson here for the Packers. And he is someone who I think he's a little smaller. He is a one-trick pony for the most part. But that one trick, it's really good. It's really, really good. It's a really good trick. because he is so fast off the ball. And so just that alone against, Brandon Thorne talks about this all the time. Against bad offensive linemen, you don't really need more than one trick. Now, in the NFC North, really good offensive lines in Minnesota and Detroit. The Eagles have a very good tackle group, but like the 49ers don't. Colton McKivitz, you can beat him with just speed around the edge with a 1-5, 10-yard split kind of stuff. I think this is the kind of move that could really elevate Green Bay defensively. You throw a little bone to Jeff Hafley. Matt LaFleur gets his offensive lineman to start. And then you give him this just freak of nature at his size, one of the fastest 40 times ever for an edge rusher. This is the kind of player I've been advocating for a couple years for Green Bay. They've got these big behemoths. Preston Smith, 6'4", 265. Rashawn Gary, 6'4", 270. Lucas Van Ness, 6'5", 270. Even Kingsley Enagbare is 6'4", 260. Big dudes, but none of them are speed guys. It's nice to have a different type of pass rusher. And that's exactly what the Packers are getting here at 41. So that is who I'm going to take for the Packers. I think there are corners I can get later. We've got pick 58, pick 88, and pick 91. We're going to do the rest of this top 100 for the Green Bay Packers, our live mock draft, in just a second here on Locked On Packers. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at Game Time. You shouldn't have to worry when you buy tickets to your next big event. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all your sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their best price guaranteed. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Plus, they've got views from your seat. You can see what it looks like from the start. Before you even click buy, you can see the view. All-in prices show your total up front so you know you're getting a great deal before you check out. Buy tickets in seconds with just a few taps. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDON, one word, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets at the lowest price guaranteed. And Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. And now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today, now available on the free Fire TV channels app. At 57, the Packers have some good options. There are really three guys on my radar here. Keon Coleman, the receiver from Florida State. Don't roll your eyes. Don't roll your eyes. I don't think he's going to be there. I think he's going to go in the first round. Bob McGinn had his scouts. He did his scouting poll. No one is more hooked in on this stuff, even still, than Bob McGinn. And it seems like Keon Coleman is going in the first round. Now, there was one scout that was like, nah, it's a third round guy. Guys that big who move like that, who make plays in traffic like that. I just don't. 57, I would be shocked. I would be shocked. And because we've done the Keon Coleman thing in the past, let's not right now. So that leaves two other players. Kyrie Jackson, the corner from Oregon. This is one of my guys. Former junior college, elite prospect in JUCO. Goes to Alabama, but can't get on the field because of Kool-Aid McKinstry and Terrion Arnold and all of the great DBs that they have there. Entrenched, 5 stars, all that stuff. He plays special teams. Goes to Oregon and breaks out last season. Has a terrific season for Oregon. And he's huge. He ran 4.5 flat at 6'3", 200 pounds almost. And jumped out of the gym. He is the perfect corner in a defense like this. He is what the 49ers wanted desperately for Ahkello Witherspoon to be. Big, can play press man, can play zone. He makes plays where you go, that looks a little like Richard Sherman. Just his ability to, over the top, it looks like he's stacked. If that ball is even on the center of the body versus out in front, with his reach and arms and closing speed, he can close down that space and get a PBU. I saw him do it in a game. Incredible stuff. Then you have Jonathan Brooks, running back from Texas. 1 year of production sitting behind Bijan Robinson. There were some scouts that have said, look, he'd be a first round pick if he didn't tear his ACL. And maybe in another draft, he still would be. That's pretty appealing here. Now, I like the third round running backs. So this, again, is another reason why I'm going, look, I'm not going to rush it because I don't have to. Now, there are some third round corners that I like. Max Melton, if he ends up being there, is the guy that I would really have my eye on. But Kyrie Jackson, you might get sick of hearing me talk about him, but for the moment, he is my second round corner of choice for the Packers. And I think that's good value for Green Bay. Like if Cooper DeJean is gone in the first round, I still think TJ Tampa's a little in play, but this is the guy from Oregon for me. So you have 2 picks left. So far you've got Tyler Guyton, right? At 41, you had a lot of options at 41, right? And so you are able to do so many different kinds of things. The Packers in our mock able to get Chop Robinson, great value there, and now Kyrie Jackson. So 2 trench guys, a corner. Is there a skill position player maybe that you like? Now, Cam Kinchens is available in our mock. This is where it starts to get interesting because we'll see, what the situation is with his pro day. This is the safety from Miami who just tested sub NFL at the combine. This is why he's here at 84 instead of at 41. I am going to operate under the assumption that the Packers have done something at the safety position here. Now, maybe that's a faulty assumption. But there are some other guys that I'm interested here. You've got Jerrion Jones, the cornerback from Florida State. I wanted to like him a little bit more than I did. Malachi Corley, the receiver from Western Kentucky. A different type of receiver. A run after catch guy, thick, almost a running back with the ball in his hands. It's going to be tough not to pick him. Dadrian Taylor Demerson. He's moved up. He's now at 95. Someone you guys know I really, really, really like in this class. Can play post safety. Max Melton, the corner from Rutgers. He is available here. Can play the slot, can play outside. That is the guy that I'm going to pick at 88. I think he can play special teams. I think that he can come in for you and play the nickel if you want him to. He can play safety. I think he can play safety if you want him to. Now, this is where I think you can take a little bit of a flyer, this extra third round pick. For me, this is between the two guys that we were just talking about, Malachi Corley and Dadrian Taylor-Demerson. Corley, to me, he's 5'11", 210. He's basically built like a running back. And he kills man coverage. All of his yards per route run are crazy. He is a really impressive guy and a different type of player. Someone that the Packers could go, he's not like anything else we have, and we have this extra third round pick. Why not just get crazy? Jeremiah Trotter, the linebacker from Clemson, also here. Some interest. Blake Corum, who I don't think the Packers are going to be interested, also here. Given the options on the board right this second, Tyke Smith, the slot from Georgia, also available. Javon Baker from UCF. Probably too early for Elijah Jones, but maybe not. You kind of hope you could get him in the fourth round. I'm going to get crazy. We're going to take Malachi Corley at 91. I know that people are going to go, what? You don't need a receiver? You never know. Like, I think in a year, he could be taking all of the snaps from Romeo Doubs, let's say. Or who knows what happens with Christian Watson and his health? We don't know. We just don't know with any of these guys. And so let's just recap here. First round pick, Tyler Guyton, tackle Oklahoma. 41, Chop Robinson, pass rusher at Penn State. 57, Kyrie Jackson, corner, boundary corner. 88, Max Melton, could play slot, could play the boundary. I think he could play safety. I'd see if he could play. Let him play. Start him in nickel and see if you can play him in the post. He's got the ball skills. He's got the playmaking. Worst case scenario, you've got a special teams ace. He's got multiple block punts in his career at Rutgers. And then Malachi Corley is the wild card. You got that extra pick. Use it in a wild manner. This is a jump up and down draft if it goes this way. All guys that are superb athletes who fit what the Packers are looking for, who make sense from a need perspective as well. This was fun. I love doing these. If you can't tell, I love doing these. So we're not gonna do them all the time. We'll probably do them, between now and the draft. We're talking about a month and a half, almost 2 months. We'll probably do 3 or 4 more times. If you like doing them, we can make a weekly part of the show. If you really like it, maybe we'll. Maybe it'll be a Friday thing. Let me know. If you want to do more, we can do more. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find podcasts, you will find Locked On Packers. And anytime you want to come hang out with us on our YouTube page, come do that. We're live when we need to be. Also, follow us on Instagram, Locked On Packers, on TikTok, Locked On Packers, Facebook, Locked On Packers, so you can stay Locked On Packers.